So, first of all, introduction to shamanism. The first thing I want you to know is that shamanism has been practiced for more than 40,000 years in every single culture on the planet, which makes it very exceptional to find something practiced everywhere in the world, from Australia to Siberia to South America to England. Very special. So, what is shamanism? That's the obvious question to ask, isn't it? So shamanism is the ability to have one foot in the physical realms, grounded on the earth, and the other foot out in the multidimensional reality. And this is what a shaman is, and this is how a shaman operates. And it's our ability to be able to be in both worlds equally effectively that makes us what we are. So let me give you an example. A person who is an institution for the insane is someone who's got a very good connection to the multidimensional reality and no connection to the earth. In a sense, that's what a definition of insanity is, the inability of that person to connect with the earth and with people and with society. Another category of person is the mystic. Now, what the mystic does is the mystic detaches from the third dimensional reality of the earth for short periods of time, and they travel in a way unlike the shaman, and they come back with information which they can then impart to other people when they're grounded. And this is what mystics do. They often write books, or they hold sessions where they speak about their experiences. And this is not shamanism, neither of these things. Shamanism is fundamentally pragmatic, and so you will discover that in terms of what we are here to do, we work with very practical things. And as my teacher loved to say to one particular student who asked him a question, and the student asked him a question about the cosmic yin and yang of spiritual life, and my teacher smiled, as he does at such moments, and says, okay, what are you really here for? And to distill all this down, because what we are learning to do is to become a shamanic practitioner. So the client comes to the practitioner for a certain very limited number of things, and these are usually to do with the following: health, love or relationship, work or career, and there's a fourth one which can be to do with where they live, moving house. And that's pretty much it. That really sums everything up. So love and relationship, health and healing, work, career, occupation, and where am I living? These are the four most fundamental things that shamans are approached for by clients. And then there's this other category which has been brought into the equation, which is what I would call the misuse of magic. Some people approach a shaman because they've actually had some magical practitioner misusing magic on their behalf, and that's another very important reason why people approach a shaman. So let us go into shamanic cosmology. Now, because shamanism is pragmatic, you can imagine the cosmology is going to be very practical and very simple, and so it is. So the shaman distinguishes between this everyday existence, this third dimensional reality, and in addition we have what we refer to as the lower world. We then have the upper world, and then there's another possibility which is the middle world. And everything can be seen in terms of these four states of existence: third dimensional reality, the lower world, the upper world, and the middle world. So let me go into a little bit of detail. First of all, the way that a shaman is able to travel in the worlds is through inducing a trance-like state. And to use rational science, we're after a very particular trance state. It's called the light trance, and the technical terminology is the theta brain rhythm. The theta brain rhythm is approximately 3 to 6 cycles per second. We can achieve that through the drum, which is a steady repetitive beat, and when we become skilled and proficient, we can discover other much easier ways to achieve exactly the same thing. So I'm going to demonstrate one of them to you now, which is the tapping. Now what I'm doing is I'm tapping my thumb with my index finger, and I'm tapping at exactly this theta brain rhythm. Now this might not be making a lot of sound, but what it's doing is it's subjecting my body to a vibration. Therefore it's automatically putting me into the light trance state of the theta brain rhythm. And there's another way we can do this through the breathing. We will explore a number of breathing techniques on our training so that you can really get to grips with the wonderful power of breath and how it can transform your consciousness and open up your psychic centers. This is very important in the work we're doing. For what we want to do is to open ourselves up to our ability to travel, which we call journeying. So journeying is also regarded by some people as guided meditation, and other people, they call it creative visualization. It's all, and some people might even call it dynamic meditation. It's all the same thing, just different labels for it. So a very slight deviation as a form of healing which is popular now, it's called theta healing. And of course all the shamans laugh when they hear about theta healing, because they know all that it is a form of shamanic healing where the theta brain is induced for healing purposes. So it's another fancy packaging for the same thing that's been going for more than 40,000 years. So there we have it. So let's go into a little bit of detail about these worlds. So the first world that people travel into when they're learning to become a shaman is the lower world. There's good reason for this. And now we get an interesting time with religion. Because according to some of the religions, particularly in Western Europe, there is a particular form of being which is referred to as the devil, and there's a particular place called hell. And there's a very clear reason why religions have described the lower world in these terms. They wanted to frighten people and to disconnect them from the possibility of travelling to the lower world. You see, here's an issue about the lower world. If you become proficient at travelling to the lower world, you will be able to heal yourself and others. Now this puts certain people out of business. It puts the priests and the doctors out of business. So this is why in certainly our Western European religions we are taught that this is something not to do. However, in shamanism we travel, having of course first travelled and become familiar with our safe place, our sacred place. We've also travelled to meet our guide or guides. And when we are so equipped we can travel to the lower world. And our first journey to the lower world is actually to examine the lower world, to open up our senses and to perceive anything that we can about its nature and its quality. And this is very useful work, and this will lead on to doing what I would regard to be the classic traditional shamanic practice of soul retrieval. So I will not talk to you in detail about the lower world because I want you to find that out for yourself. So we travel to the lower world for healing and specifically for soul retrieval. And as we all know by now, soul retrieval is when we go in the trance state to find the lost soul part of the client. And when we find this lost soul part, we enter into a dialogue with it, and subject to its agreement, we bring it back and we return it to the client. And I will show you the traditional way of doing this. This is very, very ancient, and as I say, it's a worldwide practice. And this is what we go to the lower world for healing and particularly for soul retrieval. The other place that we can choose to go as shamans when we're learning is the upper world. Now we go to the upper world for guidance particularly, and it's a wonderful way to connect with what people might call the higher self, also known as the holy guardian angel. This is the part of you which is not contained in a body, and you can go to meet your own higher self in the upper world. With permission from your client, you can actually travel and you can conduct a conversation with your client's higher self. And when this happens to me, it's always fascinating. I have a specific designated guide for travelling to the upper world. His name is Tehatl. He has a South American origin and a flavour about him. I travel with all of my guides to the lower world, and so let me tell you a little bit more about the upper world. When we're travelling to the upper world, it's definitely a feeling of moving upwards. For some people, they might be aware of being in clouds or perhaps the sky, and certainly in my case, I'm right out there in the cosmos, in the void between the galaxies. Actually, that's where I tend to go these days for upper world journeys, which I do only rarely and when asked. So, as it's an introduction to shamanism, let's look at some other areas of shamanism which are not particularly what we're going to focus on this weekend. Another very important piece of work is what we call psychopomp work. Now when we do psychopomp work, we go to the third place which I've not spoken about yet, and that's the middle world. We travel to the middle world to do one of two things. Either we travel to the middle world to find the soul of a dead person, someone that's left this physical realm, and usually what happens is somebody approaches you and they know there's something wrong with someone that they love who's died. Maybe they died in unfortunate circumstances, perhaps mysterious circumstances. Always the worst way to die is under the influence of strong pharmaceutical drugs like morphine. When a person dies under the influence of morphine, they are not able to become aware that they're dead. As you can imagine, this causes much confusion. And so, on the rare occasion I must do psychopomp work, it's a great pleasure. I never charge for psychopomp work, because how can you charge the dead for working on them? It's impossible, isn't it? So when you're doing psychopomp work, what you do, as with all the journeys, as you've seen on the pre-training films, you declare your intention to yourself 3 times, very clearly. You induce a trance-like state, you travel to your safe place, you meet your guides, and then you travel to wherever it is you're going. So here I am talking about the middle world. The middle world is not recommended for novices, and it's not recommended for apprentices. We have a solution to this, which you will find out as we go on with the weekend. So actually we're going to be able to do some of the work that's done in the middle world without even going there, which is a huge relief to me, because it means that the dangers which you could be exposed to are completely eliminated. So let me bring you to the other obvious reason for travelling to the middle world. Supposing a person is being victimized by what I would call the misuse of magic. It could well be that it would be necessary for a conventional shaman to travel to the middle world and deal with those people or beings that have been misusing magic, and to sort them out and to make what was turned wrong into something that's right. However, as I say, we have a completely different way of dealing with this, but I just need you to understand that that's what the 3 worlds are. So the lower world is for healing, the upper world is for information primarily, although on rare occasions I have done healing in the upper world. It always surprises me when it happens. And then to the middle world for releasing the stuck spirits of the dead, for releasing people from the misuse of magic, and there's a third thing that you can do there as well, which is to remove and release negative energies, which some people call entities and some people call demons. So that's basic shamanic cosmology in a nutshell, and that's it.